In this video, we're going to start the Percent Problems KutaSoftware free worksheet under the Infinite Algebra 1 tab. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can access this worksheet. Our directions are to solve each problem, round to the nearest tenth or tenth of a percent. For solving these, we're going to use proportions. So if you're unfamiliar with that, go to my tutorials section where I talk about how proportions relate to percents. Also, another note, we're going to do 8 problems in each video, so this worksheet will be 3 separate videos. You can think of a percent as a fraction out of 100. So we're saying what percent of 29 is 3? So x is what we're looking for, and that's out of 100 since it's a percent. So what percent of 29 is 3? So we're looking at 3 over 29. Now you may be asking, how did I know to write 3 over 29? That's because we're asking what percentage that 3 is of this number 29. So now we're just going to solve like we do for solving proportions. We'll multiply both sides by 100 to get that x is equal to 300 over 29. Typing that into our calculator is 10.34, rounding to the nearest tenth, 10.3%. So x is equal to 10.3%. Another way you can think of this, if you were just to divide 3 by 29, that's going to give you a decimal. Then, if you multiply by 100, so moving the decimal place over 2 times, you will still get that 10.3. Let's move on to number 2. So we're saying what percent of 33.5 is 21? So we're looking at 21 out of that 33.5. So now we're going to set up our proportion, x over 100. So we're asking what percent of that 33.5 is 21. Multiply both sides by 100 to isolate the x, and we'll get 21 divided by 33.5, and we're multiplying that by 100. So 62.68, which rounds to 62.7%. For number 2. And number 3, they're asking what percent of 55 is 34. So we're looking at that 34 of 55. And that's going to be equal to x over 100, where x is the percentage we're solving for. And in number 1, I wrote x over 100 on the left-hand side, but it doesn't matter since it's an equation. 34 over 55 equals x over 100, or you could write x over 100 equals 34 out of 55. The order doesn't matter. In order to solve, we're multiplying both sides by 100. So we're looking at 34 divided by 55, and that's going to give us 0.618. When we multiply by 100, that would be 61.8. So for number 3, our percent is 61.8%. Also, if you wanted to double check, just take your percentage and find what 61.8% is of 55. So you're going to take the decimal that became your percent and multiply by 55 and see if you get 34. And indeed, you do. Let's move on to number 4. 41% of 78 is what? So our percentage is given this time. So 41 out of 100 is the percent. So 41 is to 100. So 41 out of 100 is the same as some number, let's say x, of 78. So we're looking for 41% of that 78. So we're going to take that decimal, since 41 over 100 is 0.41, since that's the decimal of the percent, and we're going to wind up multiplying it by 78. So 0.41 times 78 is going to give us that number we're looking for. And that's going to be 31.98, which, when we rounds to 32. So 32 is the answer for number 4. If you took 32 and divided by 78, you would get 41 hundredths, which, when multiplied by 100, would give you 41%. 32 divided by 78, 41 hundredths. Moving on to number 5, let's think of this as something other than a proportion. We're trying to find what 28% of this 63 is equal to. A way to do that is to multiply the percentage converted into a decimal, so 0.28 times that 63. And that's going to give us the number that we're looking for. So finding out what 28% of 63 is, we're just going to multiply 0.28 times 63 to get 17.64, which when we round will be 17.6. So if we were to set up a proportion, it would be 28 over 100 equals x over 63. So what we did here was we multiplied both sides by 63 without having to set up the proportion. In number 6, it says 58% of what is equal to 63.4. So we're asking what percentage of some number is 63.4. So that's 0.58 when we convert to a decimal times some number x is equal to 63.4. So now, in this case, we're going to divide by 58 hundredths to get that x is equal to 63.4 divided by 0.58 gives us 109.3. So 63.4 is 58% of 109.3. If we were to set up this proportion, it would look like 58 over 100 is equal to 63.4 out of some number x. In number 7, 1 is what percent of 52.6? So we're trying to solve for the percent. So our percentage is now our x, and that times 52.6 is going to give us 1. So it's the percent of 52.6 equals 1. So we're going to take 1 and divide that by 52.6 so that we're left with our percent x on the left-hand side, and that's equal to 1 divided by 52.6, which is 0.019. But remember, this is in decimal form, so we have to move the decimal place over 2 times, which is the same as multiplying by 100 to get 1.9% for number 7. And lastly, number 8. What percent of 38 is 15? So we're looking at some percent x of 38, so the percentage multiplied to the 38, and that's equivalent to 15. And this percent is in decimal form currently. So when we divide both sides by 38, we're going to get a decimal. 15 divided by 38 will give us 0.3947, which rounds to 0.395. So x is equal to 0.395, but we still have to multiply that by 100, so moving the decimal place over twice, to get it into a percentage. So we have 39.5% as our final answer. Remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and continue on to the next video where I'll do numbers 9 through 16. In this video, we're continuing on with our percent problems worksheet on the KutaSoftware website, and I'll leave a link in the description below. In the last video, we started solving using proportions. Let's go over that. 4% of 73 is what? So we're looking at 4 out of 100, because that's the percent. 4 out of 100 is equivalent to what of 73? So that's going to be x over 73. We're going to multiply both sides by 73. 4 divided by 100, which we know is 4 hundredths. And when we multiply that by 73, we get 2.92. And we're rounding to the nearest tenth, so we're getting 2.9 for x. So 2.9 is 4% of 73. As we got familiar using proportions, in the last video I showed you a quick tip for percent problems. 4 out of 100 is that 4 hundredths, which is what 4% is in decimal form. So that's 0.04. So when you ask for a percentage of some number is equal to what, you're taking your percent, you're multiplying it by the number that you're looking at the percentage of, and that's going to equal some number that is out of the number we multiplied the percentage by. So if it asks you for 4% of 73, we're taking the percentage, multiplying it by the number that the percentage is of, and then we're solving for what that's equivalent to. So think percent of, and then the number that's the percentage of. So let's move on to number 10, knowing that trick. So it asks us what is 12% of 17.5. So we're turning this into a decimal by dividing by 100. So that's going to be 0.12. So there's our percentage in decimal form. And we're going to multiply it by the number that the percentage is of. So that's going to be 17.5. And that's going to equal some number, x. So we're going to do 0.12 times 17.5, and that's going to give us 2.1 for number 10. 2.1 is 12% of 17.5. Using that same method, we're looking at 79% of 67 miles is what? So converting that percent to start, 79 over 100 is 0.79. We're multiplying that by 67, and that's equal to x. So 0.79 times 67 equals 52.93, which in number 12, we're asked what is 59% of 14 meters? So again, converting this, 59 over 100 is equal to 0.59, and we're multiplying that by 14 meters, and that's going to be equal to what? So 59% of 14.59 times 14 is equal to 8.26, which rounds to 8.3. So that's going to be 8.3 meters. Number 13, 112 minutes is 76% of some number. So converting to a decimal, 76 over 100 is 0.76, and we're asking 76% of some number, so let's call that number x, is 112 minutes. So you see now the variable is multiplied to the percentage, because remember, that's our of. So of some number, so 76% of some number is 112 minutes. The way we solve this, we're just going to divide by 0.76. So 112 divided by 76 hundredths is going to be 147.36, which rounds to 147.4. And we're looking at minutes. So 147.4 minutes. 112 is 76% of 147.4 minutes. You can double check by taking 112, dividing it by 147.4, and seeing if that rounds to 76%, and indeed the decimal is 76 hundredths. and when multiplied by 100, that is 76%. Number 14 asks, what is 16% of 43 minutes? Converting to a decimal, we're looking at 16% of 43 minutes is some number x. So the number we're solving for. We're going to take 0.16, multiply that by 43 to get 6.88. 6.88 rounds to 6.9. So 6.9 minutes is 16% of 43 minutes. And number 15, it says $73 is what percent of $125? So our percentage is now the unknown. So the decimal for that percent is going to be x. So x times $125, because it's asking what percent of that $125 is equal to $73. Then we're just going to divide by 125 once we have the formula set up. So 73 divided by 125 will give us 0.584. But we have to convert to a percent, so we're going to multiply that by 100 to get 58.4%. So $73 is 58.4% of 125. And lastly, we'll finish up with number 16, and in the next video, we'll finish out this worksheet. Before we go into that though, please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel. In number 16, we're asked, what is 90% of 130 inches? So converting 90 to a decimal, 90% is 0.90, and we're multiplying that by 130 inches, and that's going to be equal to some number of inches, which is what we're solving for. So 0.90 times 130 is 117. So x is equal to 117 inches. So in words, 117 inches is 90% of 130. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. In this video, we're going to finish the percent problems worksheet on the KutaSoftware website. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can get to that. We started in the first two videos with using proportions, and then I showed you a simple formula based on those proportions to help make solving these percent problems a little bit quicker and a little bit easier. So if you need a refresher on those, go ahead and watch the previous two videos. For number 17, it says, what is 68% of 118 tons? So converting the percent, we're looking at 0.68 of, so multiplied by that 118 tons, and that's going to give us our answer or a number that we're looking for. So we're going to multiply 0.68 by 118, and that's going to give us 80.24, which rounds, since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, to 80.2. So 80.2 tons is the answer for number 17, since 68% of 118 is 80.2 tons. And number 18, so we're solving for that percent. So in decimal form, the percentage is represented by x. So what percent of that 180 minutes, so multiplied by 180.4 minutes, is 25.7 minutes. In order to solve for this, we're just going to divide both sides by 180.4 minutes. $25.7 divided by 180.4 is going to be 0.142, which when multiplied by 100 will be 14.2%. 14.2% of 180.4 is 25.7. And number 19, 16 inches is 35% of what number? So our 16 inches is equal to 0.35 of some number x. Divide by 0.35. So we're dividing the 16 by 0.35. And that's going to give us 45.7. So 45.7 inches is our answer for number 19. And number 20, 90% of 54.4 hours is what? 0.90 of that 54.4 hours, so multiplied by 54.4, is equal to what? 0.9 times 54.4 is equal to 48.96, which rounds to 49 hours. So 90% of 54.4 is 49 hours. Number 21, 140 feet is 97% of what number? So we have our 140 feet, and that's equal to 97%, so 0.97 when written as a decimal, of some number x. Divide both sides by 0.97. And that will give us 144.3. So 144.3 feet is our answer. 140 feet is 97% of 144.3 feet. And number 22, what is 170% of 97 tons? So we're looking for some number x, and that is 170%. So converting that to a decimal, 1.7 of 97 tons. So we're going to multiply 1.7 by 97 to get 164.9. So 164.9 tons is 170% of 97 tons. And notice that since the percentage was greater than 100%, the decimal was greater than 1, and when we multiplied by 97, our answer was greater than that 97. If this percentage had been less than 100%, our number would have been less than 97. And number 23, our question is, what is 103% of 127 tons? So some number x is 103%, converting that to a decimal, 1.03 of, so multiplied by 127 tons. 1 300ths multiplied by 127 equals 130.81, which rounds to 130.8. So 130.8 tons is 103% of 127 tons. So notice, again, since the percentage was greater than 100%, the decimal in turn is greater than 1, so we get a larger number when that percentage is multiplied to the 127. And lastly, number 24. Number 24 says 102 hours is 94% of what? So we're looking at 102, and that is 94%, so converting that to a decimal, 0.94 of some number x. Now note how this percentage is less than 100%, so we know that 102 is going to be less than our x value. So when we divide both sides by 0.94, we get 102 divided by 0.94, and that's going to be 108.5. So x is 108.5, and that represents hours. So 102 hours is 94% of 108.5 hours. And that wraps up our percent problems worksheet. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and comment below if you have any questions.